Hello, and welcome to today's session where we will dive deep into the structure of the ISO 55001 standard. If you're aiming to become a lead auditor or are simply looking to understand the key components of ISO 55001, this session will guide you through the standard's clauses, explaining the key elements in a way that will help you apply them effectively in your role. So, let's break down the structure of ISO 55001 and explore what each section entails. ISO 55001 follows a systematic structure, divided into 10 main clauses, each focusing on a different aspect of the asset management system. This layout helps organizations implement and maintain an effective asset management framework, ensuring that asset management supports the organization's strategic objectives and delivers maximum value. Let's go through each of these clauses step by step. Clause 1, Scope. Let's start with Clause 1, Scope. This clause defines the boundaries and applicability of the standard. It makes clear that ISO 55001 applies to any organization, regardless of its size or industry, that needs to manage its assets effectively. Whether the organization operates in manufacturing, energy, infrastructure, or any other sector, the principles of ISO 55001 can be applied. The purpose of this clause is to establish that the standard focuses on asset management systems that enable an organization to achieve its strategic objectives. It's not limited to physical assets, it can include non-physical assets, like intellectual property, software, and information. This broad application is crucial because it reinforces the idea that asset management should be integrated into the organization's broader management framework. Clause 2, Normative references. Let's start with Clause 1, Scope. This clause defines the boundaries and applicability of the standard. It makes clear that ISO 55001 applies to any organization, regardless of its size or industry, that needs to manage its assets effectively. Whether the organization operates in manufacturing, energy, infrastructure, or any other sector, the principles of ISO 55001 can be applied. The purpose of this clause is to establish that the standard focuses on asset management systems that enable an organization to achieve its strategic objectives. It's not limited to physical assets, it can include non-physical assets, like intellectual property, software, and information. This broad application is crucial because it reinforces the idea that asset management should be integrated into the organization's broader management framework. Clause 2, Normative references. Next, we have Clause 2, Normative references. This clause outlines any relevant documents that provide supporting guidance for implementing ISO 55001. It ensures that when organizations use the standard, they are also aware of other related standards or frameworks that may guide their asset management efforts. For example, organizations might need to refer to ISO 9001 for quality management or ISO 14001 for environmental management, as this can often complement ISO 55001 in a comprehensive management system. While Clause 2 doesn't provide detailed requirements, it highlights important references that guide the implementation of the asset management system. Clause 3, Terms and definitions. Now, let's move on to Clause 3, Terms and definitions. This section provides clarity on the terminology used throughout the ISO 55001 standard. Understanding these terms is critical, as they form the language of asset management systems. Key terms in this clause include definitions for asset management system, performance evaluation, and others that are foundational for the proper application of the standard. For example, asset isn't just limited to physical assets like machinery but can also include intangible assets, such as intellectual property or data. As you work through the standard, you need to keep these definitions in mind to avoid confusion and ensure consistency across your organization's asset management processes. Clause 4, Context of the organization. Moving on to Clause 4, Context of the organization. This clause is about understanding the internal and external factors that affect the asset management system. It's a foundational part of ISO 55001 because it helps organizations recognize their environment and how asset management fits into it. Organizations need to identify relevant stakeholders, such as customers, suppliers, and regulatory bodies, and assess their needs and expectations regarding asset management. Additionally, organizations should evaluate their external context, such as market conditions, legal requirements, and technological trends, which could influence their asset management strategies. For auditors, this clause is important because it establishes the foundation for the entire asset management system. If the organization hasn't adequately considered these factors, the asset management approach may lack alignment with its strategic objectives. Clause 5. Leadership. Now, let's talk about Clause 5. Leadership. This clause emphasizes the role of senior leadership in driving the success of the asset management system. For asset management to be effective, it must have strong leadership commitment. The leadership team must ensure that the asset management policy is in place, that the asset management objectives align with the organization's strategic goals, and that the necessary resources are available for effective asset management. Leadership should also ensure that there's a clear accountability structure and that roles and responsibilities are defined for asset management. As a lead auditor, you'll want to ensure that leadership isn't just signing off on documents but actively involved in decision-making and reviewing asset management performance to ensure continuous improvement. Clause 6. Planning. Clause 6. Planning focuses on how an organization should plan its asset management system. This includes setting clear, measurable objectives, assessing risks and opportunities, and establishing plans to meet the strategic asset management goals. A key part of planning is identifying risks related to asset performance, which might include asset failure, increased costs, or poor asset utilization. The organization should also plan for opportunities to optimize asset performance, reduce costs, and extend asset life. From an auditing perspective, you need to verify whether the organization's planning process is structured and data-driven, considering all relevant factors, such as resources, time frames, and potential challenges. Clause 7. Support. Clause 7. Support deals with the resources needed to establish, implement, maintain, and improve the asset management system. It covers key elements such as competence, ensuring employees have the necessary skills and knowledge to carry out their asset management responsibilities, awareness, ensuring that everyone in the organization understands the importance of asset management and their role in achieving its objectives, communication, ensuring that there are clear channels for communicating asset management goals and performance across the organization, documentation, ensuring proper documentation to support asset management processes, including procedures, work instructions, and policies. As a lead auditor, you need to assess whether the organization has adequate support mechanisms in place to ensure the system runs smoothly. This includes checking whether staff have received sufficient training and whether the right tools and systems are available for effective asset management. Clause 8. Operation. Next, we have Clause 8. Operation. This clause is about the actual processes and procedures needed to manage assets effectively. It's about ensuring that the organization's asset management practices are robust and implemented consistently. Clause 8 requires the organization to have operational processes that cover asset maintenance, performance monitoring, and control measures. It emphasizes that these processes should be continually reviewed and improved based on real-time data and performance indicators. As an auditor, you'll examine the organization's operational controls to ensure that they are effectively managing asset performance, minimizing downtime, and addressing issues proactively. You need to check whether the right operational processes are in place and whether they are aligned with the organization's strategic objectives. Performance evaluation. Clause 9. Performance evaluation focuses on how the organization monitors and evaluates the performance of its asset management system. This includes setting performance metrics, measuring results, and ensuring that the asset management system delivers the desired outcomes. The organization should regularly assess whether its objectives are being met, whether risks are being managed effectively, and whether improvements are being made. Performance evaluation is not just about compliance but about optimizing the asset management process. In your audit, you need to verify that performance evaluations are happening regularly, that they are based on solid data, and that they result in actionable insights. You'll also need to assess whether the organization is taking corrective actions when necessary. Clause 10. Improvement. Finally, we arrive at Clause 10. Improvement. This clause is about ensuring continuous improvement within the asset management system. It encourages organizations to use the findings from performance evaluations, audits, and other sources to identify areas for improvement and take corrective actions where needed. ISO 55001 is designed to be a dynamic, evolving framework. It's not enough to implement the system and leave it. Organizations
Look for
must
evidence of
continually
corrective
assess their
actions,
asset management
lessons learned,
practices, and whether the
identify
system is
areas for
evolving based on
optimization,
feedback and drive
performance
improvement.
data.
To recap, ISO 55001 is structured in a logical, step-by-step framework that guides organizations in implementing, maintaining, and continually improving their asset management systems. Understanding the structure of the standard is key to performing effective audits and ensuring that organizations are able to manage their assets efficiently to support their strategic goals. Thank you for joining Oil Train, and I hope this detailed breakdown of ISO 55001 structure has provided you with a deeper understanding of how the standard works.